The next thing that we're going to look at in this series is actual push-up prep, proper positioning, and how to work into teaching yourself what it means to accept the load of a push-up and how to correctly get out of a push-up, all while focusing on the internal, external rotation and the extension of your shoulders, as well as the flexion action that it takes to push out. Okay, so now that we've prepped our shoulders and we've explored what internal rotation and external rotation of the shoulder head mean, we've explored scapular movement and what that means. We've even explored isometrics around those areas so we know what it means to utilize and activate those muscles. Let's look at push-up prep. And there's a lot of different ways to do a push-up. What we're going to talk about today is if I was going to push myself up off the floor, how do I do that with proper body mechanics? What muscles am I actually trying to use? And how do I do it without hurting myself? So, we're going to start on our knees. No pride here. We're actually just trying to explore the body. We want to start in a quadruped position. So what that means is that we want to stack the wrists over the shoulders and the knees underneath the hips as best as possible. Anytime we find ourselves planched out like this or back behind ourselves is just going to cause a lot of problems. If we try to go wide, we're going to end up flaring the elbows, which drives a lot of internal rotation, but also drives the scapula up over the rib cage. What we're trying to do is we're trying to program or train what it means to actually be centered through a push. So we're going to line ourselves up. Once we have the wrists in place, we're going to go ahead and slide the knees back behind us just a little bit and cross our feet. This is going to give us a little bit of space. So we want to be able to allow the pelvis to tuck underneath us. So this is your knee push-up position. From here, you're going to just press down into the floor. Think about finding that serratus and see if you can just pull the scapula forward by pushing into the floor. You're going to round through the mid-back just a little bit to get that space. And then I want you to try to think about pressing down through the thumb and forefinger of the hands, internally rotating those shoulders. So we're going to hold here for 5, 4, 3, 2, and then ramping it down. So coming out of the internal rotation, less pressure through the thumb and forefinger, and more just back on the hands. Nice even distribution between those spread out fingers. So when we're pushing up, that is the motion we want. We want to feel the pressure go to the thumb and forefinger, not to the outside. As we come down, we want to think about screwing the floor away from us. So we're holding that external rotation, pulling those elbows in, and softly bending those elbows. So let's take a look at that now. And we're just going to come down about 1/4 of the way, screwing the floor away from us, hugging those elbows to the side, and pressing down into the floor. So here I'm holding a full-blown isometric, checking in with all of my tissue to see what's working and what's not. Take a breath in, press down to the thumb and forefinger, drive up, and then I'm going to come off for just a second. So let's take stock of what we just felt. We're pressing down into the floor. We're pressing through the thumb and the forefingers as we try to press up. We're trying to internally rotate those shoulders to activate the pecs, right? The pecs pull the shoulder head inside. They squeeze together, so they adduct the arms to the center of the body, and that creates that center of gravity or force to drive ourselves away from the earth, right? So it's somewhat similar when we're coming down or in the eccentric phase of this work. We're trying to screw the floor away, so we're pressing down into the ground. We're not necessarily holding as much pressure on the internal rotation. We're actually activating the posterior side of the arm line so that we can get into the scapula and allow the scapula to slowly pull back together and control the descent, right? We're also using the pecs in this way too, eccentrically, but the scapula and the back of the shoulders are going to do a lot of that grouping to really help us control the down. So let's go ahead and do that again, keeping these things in mind. So we'll set ourselves back up into the quadruped position. Slowly walk the knees back, crossing the feet, tuck the pelvis, engaging the abs, pressing down into the ground, finding that serratus. Take a breath in. On the exhale, screw the ground away from you, slowly bend those elbows. Controlled lower, down to about halfway. Keep pressing down into the ground, full pressure through the whole hand. Take a breath. One more. Press through the thumb and forefinger. Drive up. And again, screw the ground away from you. Tuck the pelvis. Hold space. Thumb and forefinger. And off. Controlling the eccentrics like that is a lot of work. It's actually a lot of good work, right? Because it's teaching you how to use that range as you lower. And that will transfer both neurologically and functionally in your strength. So now that we've done a couple of isometrics in that range, let's go ahead and just do a few push-ups, right? So a little faster, same control. Stack yourself up. Knees back, tuck the pelvis. Set those scapula in a good spot. Screw the ground away. Coming down. Not all the way. Thumb and forefinger. Pressing up. Breathe in. Breathe in. Keep that pelvic tuck. Screw the floor away, elbows back. Thumb and forefinger. Pressing up. One more. Thumb and forefinger. And up. So as we do this, this gives us an opportunity to see which side's working harder and maybe where there's a deficit. And so our goal every time we do this is to just get better and better and making sure that we're incorporating or grouping together both sides as equally as possible and that we're finding the strength in the most appropriate position. So we really want to take that time to make sure that we're organizing ourselves and not just powering through the movement.